G'day, it's Chris Betcher here. I want to take you through a new feature in Google Meet that was just released by Google that addresses a lot of the concerns that educators had about using Meet with their students. So Meet is Google's video conferencing tool that lets students communicate together in multi-person video calls, up to 100 people in a meeting using the standard Meet feature, or 250 if you've got the premium edition, which by the way is free for schools now until the end of September. The concern with using Meet has been, and this comes from the fact that Meet was always designed for the enterprise space, not necessarily the education space, is that meeting rooms were persistent. In other words, they lasted forever. Now, in the enterprise, that's not a bad thing. It means you can set up a space that teams can use to work together. But in a school situation, it's not ideal because it means that students can wander into these spaces unsupervised or stay after a teacher leaves a meeting and remain unsupervised. Either way, it wasn't a good idea to have these meeting spaces that students could stay in without a teacher there. Today's update from Google addresses that by making these meetings non-persistent and also integrating with Google Classroom. So let me show you how this works. Okay, so here we are inside Google Classroom. You can see I've got this set up so the teacher's view is on the left-hand side of the screen and the student view of the same classroom is over here on the right-hand side. And the first thing you're going to want to do to use this new integration between Meet and Classroom is to turn it on. So as a teacher, I'll go to the settings by clicking on the cogwheel, scroll down, and you'll notice there's a section in here now for Meet. And there's a URL there that is generated. And this is a special URL that's a little bit different to the normal ones that you would encounter with Google Meet. This one generates a brand new URL for every session. So at the end of a session, it disappears, and the next time you click on it, it generates a brand new session. So you can choose to make this visible to students, which I'll do there, and just hit save. And what that does is it puts this link right here on the front page of the page. You notice it's not on the student page yet, but it will appear there in a couple of seconds. Also, if I go to the classwork page over here, you'll notice there's now a button at the top of the section here that says Meet. And whether you click this Meet button or whether you go to the stream and click that Meet button, doesn't really make any difference. They both go to exactly the same place. And over here on the student page, any second now, you'll see that will appear. There you go. It just popped up. So it's there. And also on the classwork page, the button is also there as well. Doesn't matter which one you use. Okay, so let's just do a little experiment first. As the student, I'm going to come over to this side and click on this link to start a brand new Meet. And you'll notice what it does is, first of all, it tries to create one and then says, oh, that meeting code you entered doesn't work. Okay, so I can't use that. I can't actually start a meeting on my own as a student. All right, what happens when the teacher starts a meeting? If the teacher clicks on this and it goes into this creation of a brand new Meet session, and I want to point out a very important thing, that this Meet session, as soon as I get to this page, is now live. If a student were to join right now, they would get in because this session exists, even though the teacher hasn't actually joined the meeting yet. So my advice to you as a teacher is, as soon as you start the session, join the session, okay? Now, what's actually happened in the background is it's generated this unique code, and every time it does a new session, it generates a new unique code. And that's how we solve the problem of these non-persistent sessions. Now, when a student tries to enter that same room, you'll notice that they can. They get the same session code, they join, and now they're both in there. Now, you've seen both of me because I'm using one computer to record both of these. Now, if the student hangs up, and the teacher hangs up, there is about a 25 to 30 second delay between the time the last person leaves the meeting to the time the meeting actually vanishes. Okay, so if the student was to go back in within this 25-second period, they could potentially get back into that room. So you want to wait about 25 seconds. And if you need to pop back into the room just to check that those students have gone back in, you can do that. But the room will become non-valid after about 25 seconds. So if a student tries to rejoin this now, you'll see they get a code saying the meeting code you entered doesn't work. Okay. If they try and go back to the main page here and join that session again, they'll get a code, they get a message saying the meeting code you entered doesn't work. So once that session is ended, let me just close this. Once this session is ended, the student can't enter it until the teacher creates a brand new session like so. And as soon as the teacher creates another session, this is now a different session with a different unique code, the student can now join that meeting by clicking on that link and the student can now get into that second meeting. But each of these sessions are unique, and once the student leaves them, the session closes down again after about 25 seconds or so. So just be aware of that little time frame at the end. But that should solve the problem that you've been having with students wandering in and out of Google Meet unsupervised.